Yo, yo. What's up, everybody? It's me, B. It's not Pastor Ray this week. Pastor Ray is actually attending a very special celebration for our homie, Pastor Tay. Today is his birthday. So, right now, before we get started, everybody type happy birthday, Pastor Tay, in the chat. Yeah, because we celebrating his birthday. I don't even remember how old he is today. But he old. He getting there. He got the gray hairs and all that stuff. Now he got a baby. He gonna be real old real soon. But no. Happy birthday, Pastor Tay. We appreciate you. We love you, bro. Sad you're not here with us tonight, and that you took Ray from us. But no. It's all love. It's all love. Happy Thursday to the people. Welcome to this week encounter. Ooh, I can't speak. Welcome to this week's encounter. As always, we're gonna get into the little intro. You know what time it is. We invite you all to encounter, become, and emerge and share the well. We are a community of believers who love to have interesting conversations, who love to tackle interesting topics and interesting issues, and do it in love. And do it allowing everyone to share and express their feelings, and to represent kind of their own personal views, but at the same time embracing and learning and sharing in love. The path that we are all on should lead you on the path of the 5 P's. If you don't know them by now, you better know them by next week when Ray gets hit back. But they are passion, purpose, promise, peace, and power. That is not our motto, but it's our guiding principles. Everything that we do, we want you to lead you along that path, where you discover your passion, purpose, promise, peace, and power. And today, listen, I'm gonna start it out by saying last week I made some comments. If you wasn't here or you didn't hear them, go back, listen, because this one I'm coming out with the apology out front. Because I said President Biden doesn't need to step down, and we just all need to get behind him and support him. And that man said he's stepping down, and he got a replacement. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of excited about his replacement. So I'm walking that back and saying, shout out to the Black women in the world that's coming through. And Kamala Harris, appreciate you for stepping up to the plate, like Black women do and women of color do in all places. And yeah, listen, as you can see, the hashtag I'm with her, because it's still, y'all know how I feel about this race, but we'll talk about that later. But now let me bring on the team, the squad. We got a few special guests that haven't been with the team in a while. They're not even special guests. They family, but they just ain't been, y'all ain't seen them in a while. We talking everything like that. But let me bring up the crew. Shout out to the gang.
Gang.
Yeah. All right, let's start out with the introductions. Harrison, we'll let you go first and then let the ladies take the floor because they're gonna be doing most of the talking tonight.
Man, you so right. Let me get out the way. Listen, what's good, y'all? It is absolutely good to see another Thursday. Listen, I don't know if y'all at home or where y'all at, but if you are in somewhere, can you just, I know we ain't in church or nothing, but can we, man, just thank God for another week, bro? People are like leaving here every day. So just, man, remembering to be grateful for all this going on. I know we're going to talk about a lot tonight. Some good, some not so good, some a little gray, trying to figure it out. But man, if we could just continue to find that space of gratitude, that space where God really lives, I think things will start to come together a little more fluently. But man, I'm just glad to be a part of the squad. Anna Jelsey, I'm going to pass it to you.
All right. So I'm Anna Jelsey. I'm glad to be with you all. I was here a few weeks ago. I mean, I feel like 1,000 things are happening every week, and so time means nothing anymore. But I'm glad to be with y'all. And I'll pass it to Jordan.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm a familiar face. I'm Jordan. It's been a minute, but I'm glad to be back with the gang, the squad. I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight. So I'll say, let's get it going. Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, we can start with, again, I already apologized and said, I'm sorry, Kamala, for doubting your prowess, and you proved me wrong to a point of 100 M's wrong. I ain't never been that wrong in my life. But I ain't never been 100 degrees. So I will take this L with pride because a black woman stepped up and said, hold my pearls. So shout out to you. But here we are.
That's it.
And Kamala Harris is officially running on the presidential ticket for the President of the United States. First question out the gate. Do you think it's harder for women to attain positions of power? And if so, why?
Men. I mean,
wait, time out. She didn't even answer the first part of the question. She just went to the second part and said,
okay.
I mean,
Implied, yes.
She said it in one word. So,
Right?
yes, and there's the reason.
I'm being economical with my words.
Understood.
No, but for real, I think, I mean, we know there are systems in place. There's patriarchal systems in place. There are racist systems in place, particularly for us as women of color or as Black women. There are so many things built into our culture and have been for a long, long time, which means it's going to take a while to unlearn them. But yeah, there's a lot that stands in the way, tries to prevent us from being able to be in leadership. Now, we know women can be in leadership. We've seen this week that women can be in leadership, but there are a lot of things that try to prevent that. And those systems were built by men.
Yeah, I would have to agree that it is hard. I mean, even just, to the point that was mentioned, like, think about some of the topics and the names that she's been called since announcing her, her running. Like, come on now. It's definitely hard. They don't want to see her do it. They didn't even want her to be vice president.
Nope.
Yeah.
And so it is definitely hard for women. And I would definitely agree that it's the systems that are in place that it's the systems, it's history, and it's people that make it hard for women to obtain and positions of power. It's not impossible either. It's hard, but it's not impossible. But it shouldn't have to be that hard, because it's easy for men. But ultimately, we run the world anyway, as Beyonce said. So it don't even matter.
Tell them. And you said something key though. All of the different names that she's been called just since she's been running. Grandma would have said everything but a child of God. I'll say everything but a bison. Okay, they didn't call her everything but a Howard gotta correct that. The Howard University bison. Just have to put the shameless plug out there so y'all know what university is really running these things now. Anyway, so it really poses the question, because I agree with where you all are coming from. It really poses a question for me, because maybe the people don't know. I feel like I know, but have you two in particular experienced, some of that, adversarial relationship with people as it relates to trying to get into leadership, or as you've been in leadership? Like, have y'all really experienced some of that controversy and like what are some of those hardships, or have you just seen it?
Yeah, provide the people with some context for the answers that you gave. Not that we need it. We agree.
We know.
For sure.
Yeah, so I will say I've seen it. I've not actually been I have not been on the receiving end of it. I've been blessed with having women that have been in leadership positions that have pulled me along the way and mentored me and brought me along the way to say, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. This is what you should do. And I would even also go a step further and say the last maybe 4 years, I've been blessed to have an all Black women leadership. And it's no cattiness. It's no, it's literally a sisterhood of Black women uplifting, motivating, encouraging one another to be able to, progress to the next level. And so, but I would also add that I have seen women in leadership positions subject to the mistreatment of male figures that are in leadership positions, and or have been made privy to conversations of their male colleagues making comments and statements about, their women, the women that are their peers. And it's nasty work. It's nasty business. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why that is. It actually breaks my heart to witness people, and I hate to say it like that, but it breaks my heart to witness, men treat women that way, and women that way sometimes too, because there are some women that make it difficult for other women to progress in leadership, or make it hard for them to be in their leadership positions. But it breaks my heart because of gender. At the end of the day, we're all people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we all need each other. You keeping a secret or holding back something from so-and-so over here so they can't get to the next level or get to the same levels as you or surpass you. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. And maybe that's just my upbringing. Maybe my mama kept me sheltered a little bit too much.
Shout out to Mama Dent.
I know.
Okay.
Shout out to my mama.
Great
but
mama.
it does not. And maybe it's my spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's my spirituality, because that ain't what I read in the good book. My favorite book, the book of Matthew. That's not how we do business. And so for me to see men and people, treat one another in that way, it breaks my heart. So I bear witness to it. Yes. Thankfully, I have not experienced it for myself, or if I have, I've been so disconnected and not necessarily looking for it for me to even know, like, yeah, you were, you've been a victim of it, if you will. So, yeah, I've seen it. And the higher you go, honestly, in your role and your responsibility, or higher you go in general, the more you will probably be exposed to it and may even be subject to it.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan, you just put the words to my experience. I've worked really hard. I've been in justice and liberation spaces for 20 odd years. I've worked myself to like the second in command sort of positions in organizations, and in multiple organizations in different cities and in different states and different topics. I've kind of come up against this wall with the man who was in leadership. And the kind of things that were said to me were awful. I've been told, this was prior to me getting married. I've been told, oh, you care too much. You're too invested because you don't have a husband. So you've made work your husband. I've been told you're scary and intimidating. You're too confrontational. I've been told that I don't know my place. I don't know how to show due respect. I have heard it all. I have seen men literally stand in front of me and cry and get angry. We say women are emotional in the workplace. I have seen men cry with their anger in the midst of telling me that I need to know my place. Mm-hmm. And I thought for years that meant that what they were saying was true about me, that they were speaking truth about who I was as a person. And then I left and I started my own business, and I work predominantly with women, honestly. I love it. I don't hear any of that stuff anymore. It's camaraderie, it's sisterhood, it's affirming. So there's a contrast difference in what I've experienced with women and what I've experienced with men. Yeah, it's very real.
You know what? To that point, Vanessa actually just dropped a comment and said much of the sexism that exists now is not as overt. There are a lot of closed doors conversations that happen. There's absolutely still a bro code that exists.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that's, I think it's definitely, it's sad. It's nasty work. And I think ultimately, like it shows more about the character of the person doing it, to where you feel so threatened that your spot is going to be taken and that you won't have another spot, that you got to, shoot down somebody else. And especially a woman from a male perspective. like it's unnecessary to me, you know. And I mean, maybe that's just from my context. Like I grew up single woman household. I watched my mother be, you know, like be great, you know, and do everything she could to make sure, you know, to provide a life for us that she was happy with and that she felt was appropriate. And even dealing with everything she dealt with, making sure that she instilled in myself and my siblings just like proper morals of like just respecting people, and not, you know, not I mean, not being scared of somebody else taking your spot. Like if it's theirs and they take it, then you know it's their spot. Your spot ain't there no more. You gotta find your next spot, and like learning to embrace that. So like I mean, it's a crazy situation. But actually, back to Jordan, what you was saying, because you mentioned, and I mean you shout out to you as well. I don't know if we shouted you out on Cam, but you know, graduating recently.
Oh yeah,
Masters of Divinity.
Oh yeah.
Church. Shout out to Jordy.
Come on, Rev.
So I mean, Jordy, you'd probably be very versed in this next question and the subject of this next question, but does the Bible support?
The Bible says.
Yes. What does the Bible say? Like in the beginning, what does the Bible say about women in leadership?
Ooh, that's a very good question. And I ain't going to sit up here in front like I know it from front to back, but I will share what I have been exposed to and what I have read for myself. Mm-hmm. Women can lead. I mean, the bottom line of it, and this may not necessarily be an ideal, you know, book to really go to. I mean, it's very convoluted in my opinion, but the Book of Ruth. When we talk about Naomi, Naomi and Ruth,
was a boss.
And they lost it all. You know what I mean? And the reality of it is Naomi had to step up to the plate and lead the family to be able to, you know, continue the family name, because ultimately she lost her husband and she lost her 2 sons. And so she had to make a decision to continue carrying that family name. And so she did something that many of us would, you know, or back then, you know, during the biblical times would say was outside of the norm, right? Because if you didn't back then, it was you needed a man to really take the lead and carry the family name and all of those things and to support the family. So for Naomi to, you know, say, all right, I done lost it all. Now what I'm going to do, you know what I mean? And for Ruth to stick beside her, I'm going to stick beside her, you know, for Ruth to stick beside her and to, you know, Naomi to, you know, pretty much come up with a plan to make sure the family name still stayed, you know, the way it was. She had to lead. She had to make a decision. And so that's one context. We got the book of Esther. We have Esther. We also have Deborah. We have a number of women that, you know, while they may not have an official title of leading, they did the activity of leading. Yeah. And so it's there. It's in the book. People need to open it and read it. And I don't understand. And we're not going to even get on Timothy and what Paul wrote, because it was Paul.
Yes.
Okay. It was Paul. Yeah. It wasn't Jesus who said it, was Paul. Mm-hmm. All right. And so women have the ability to lead. It's in the book. If we say we believe in the book, and then, you know, you need to read it and study it and know exactly what it says. And so I do strongly believe that the good book gives us examples of many women that have led and proves the point that women can lead. As a matter of fact, I would even go as far as to argue that when women are leading, things actually go a little bit better.
Yes.
That's biblical too. I want Anna Jealousy to go first, but I got a point that I can show y'all where, you know, women led and it turned out pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the stories that you're naming, Jordan, because I think the thing that I'm hearing as you're naming them is women didn't lead in just one area of life. We see with the story of Naomi, leadership in family. We see with the story of Deborah, leadership in politics and military. We see with Martha and Mary Magdalene, stories of leadership in ministry. Women led in all areas of life, and they did it well. And oftentimes, when you look at the women around Jesus, they did it first.
Mhm.
So, like, it's not a question of should women lead, can women lead, and particularly in the church, it's a question of haven't they always? And yes, they have.
It's in the book. It's in the book.
Favorite Bible
It
story.
is.
My favorite Bible story is actually of Elizabeth and Mary. Their meeting, but like the precursor to, like, you know, John jumping in the womb when you know when Mary walked in the room with Jesus in her womb. Like the precursor to that was Elizabeth's husband being literally silenced by God for doubting. And Elizabeth, you know, I think it was like for 6 months or something like that. And Elizabeth really like going through the process and I mean, to an extent, leading her husband back to his voice and showing him how to be of faith and how to have the faith, and for it all to come out in that, you know, this moment when my cousin walks in and she's pregnant and I'm pregnant and I'm keeping my pregnancy private. She's keeping hers private. But now, because we've met and something inside of us decides to jump, now you get your voice back, sir. Like, it's crazy to even think about that. Like, you know, Elizabeth and her husband was, I think he was like a high priest.
Yeah.
Like he was a predominant priest in the church, and like to have him be silenced and Elizabeth be the voice during that time, because God was like, if you say something else, you're gonna mess it up. So you gotta shut up. And not, but now in that in kind of in that same way, the woman steps up and in place that allows this interaction to happen, and for Elizabeth now to have the moment where she's like, oh no, God, you was right all along. Like this baby in me is not still, it's not dead, it's real. He just jumped because she walked in and she got something else. Like, that's crazy to me. And I mean, but it's all stories. I mean, there's stories throughout the Bible, like where women lead and not even entitled. And that's what I love about it. It's like, it don't require the title. You know, Elizabeth was never given high priest, but she led the high priest. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to have the title. You can do it just through being who you are. And that's the thing I love about so many of the stories of women leading in the Bible.
So,
I mean,
but
the
if I
scripture
could,
that you so often, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Anna.
The scripture you so often hear being used against women is Proverbs 31. Be a Proverbs 31 woman. And somehow that's been translated into like this obedient, proper, wifely woman. If you read Proverbs 31 through, that woman was doing everything everywhere. She was in business. She was in the household. She was at the city gates. Like, that was a woman who was in leadership. She was a businesswoman. And I love it. Like, if you can stop for a second and really read scripture outside of the lens we may have been taught to, we see things that we didn't see before. So in that one scripture alone, Proverbs 31, we see all of the things that women are capable of.
Even to what Jordan was saying, like with the Timothy and what Paul was saying, like if you look back and look into the context of what he was talking about, it's completely different than how we use it. And so that's I mean, again, you read the Bible and you can 100% take it literally, but you're probably gonna be taking it wrong.
So if we look at Acts chapter 16, right, when Paul and Timothy actually met, when they collided, when they got together, you know, everybody talks about Paul and Silas in jail, but most people don't read the first 10 to 13 verses of that chapter, where Paul struggled trying to figure out which way he's supposed to go. Holy Spirit said, you're not going there, you're not going there. He had a dream, found a direction, right? They're traveling together, and the first individuals they meet are women who are having a prayer service by the river. And there's a particular woman, her name was Lydia. She was a seller of purple cloth, which means she was of some type of notability. She was a businesswoman, right? She had money. She had some type of wealth. And they had such an impact on her via ministry that she invited them into her home, is what the scripture says. And because of her faith,
Not her husband
family.
home. It was her home.
Husband was never even mentioned.
All right.
But because of her faith, she got her whole family saved.
Yeah.
Because what? Say it again. Say it again for the people in the back.
Family was saved. And let's even go to Genesis chapter 1. When God makes man, man was incomplete to a degree, not because of God's design, but simply because there was something that man didn't have. And that was, he saw a Mr. and a Miss Elephant. He saw a Mr. and a Miss Lion, a Mr. and a Miss Monkey. He even saw a yin and a yang in the fish. But
he wasn't even man yet. He was still a dom.
He was just...
He was asexual.
He was not. He had no gender until Eve.
See, and Eve came, and when God created Eve out of Adam, it was more of a function that God put them in order. But even before that, even when you get to chapter 2 with the fall and the apple, yes, Eve gets a lot of slack for
So
that.
much slack.
I'm gonna fix it right here with one word. Eve had one thing that all women have, and I believe this is why you all make great leaders. This is why it helped man to be complete. You all have amazing influence. And I think that is the one thing that we don't give Eve credit for there. I'm not saying she influenced him in the best direction there. However, that wasn't necessarily Eve's fault. Scholars argue she was there when God said, don't do it.
So was
I didn't
he.
read that.
He was the one that got the
Adam was the man.
instruction.
Exactly.
Hey,
Man,
listen,
Read
as I
the
was saying,
Bible, beloved. Read the Bible.
There
It
you go.
tells you.
Talk about
that was a
it.
conversation between God and Adam.
And
It
Adam's
was.
supposed to be a silent husband, like a lot of men do. And I'm not here to bash or cause fault or anything, but let's be real about what we read. Let's tell the story like the story. Adam did not convey those instructions right. Granted,
I mean, ultimately, you also got to think Eve ate the Eve. You know, she took a bite, or she ate the fruit, and ain't nothing happened. It wasn't until Adam ate it that I was like, "Hey, yo!"
Ooh, Brennan, say that.
Like if we just look at the, we look at the facts.
read the story.
It wasn't until Adam ate it that God was like, "Hey, yo, what you doing, fam?"
I told you something.
You can't argue that. It ain't no arguing that. We can argue Eve was there at the beginning, or even if she was, ain't nothing happened until Adam ate it, and that was Adam's fault, not Eve's.
But even after that, when God gave judgment, right, she put woman subject to man. However, in my opinion, and this is just Harrison, in my opinion, that was more about function. Her function as a wife, as a mother. Yes, she is subject to his leadership, but that does not mean she doesn't lead. That does not mean she doesn't have valid thoughts and opinions. Please.
Let me take it a step further. Even if it was a case of it being more than function, it would be considered something that was a product of a fallen world at that point, which means if we're going to be restored to who we were meant to be, that shouldn't be the lineup.
Wait, dang.
Let me get my little notebook.
Listen, hold on. I ain't never thought about it like that. Adam Johnson, you're right.
Through this again.
That's a broken system that he was correcting, not what he originally intended.
It was not his intent.
All right, we're gonna move on before we get too crazy in these. We're gonna be going back and read. Everybody gonna go read Genesis 1 and 2 tonight. Watch.
Okay, they can be like, wait, I didn't say that.
Let me read this again.
I don't have that chapter.
Right?
Okay.
But wait, I did about 2 years ago because I just went back to my notes because I asked the same question. I was like, was Eve created after God gave Adam instructions about the tree of knowledge, good and evil? I asked that question. Yes. I asked the question because I have questions.
Right.
But he gave Adam no. What
I
I read
until Adam ate it.
There you go.
And that's it. That is the conversation there. But we'll move on to the next question. And let me ask you, ladies, do you feel like God's church, the body of Christ, has been more of a protagonist or an antagonist in the plight for women in leadership?
Ooh.
Here we go. Oh yeah.
You want to take that, Jordan?
I'm gonna drink some water for you.
I'm gonna wait. Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
I mean, we have to be honest. We still have churches today that are fighting just to allow their women to speak.
Mhm.
If with that being a truth, I don't think we can say that the church as a whole has been a protagonist for women. I think the church, unfortunately, has been a constant test for women, a constant battle and hurdle to overcome. And that's a really unfortunate thing to say, that the church could be that in the lives of half its constituents, half of its people.
Actually, not even half. I think the church is predominantly
more,
women.
predominantly women. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we have churches where women are still being told what you can wear, what you can say, how you can look, who you can love, what you're allowed to do, and what kind of work you can hold and positions you can hold. When we're still asking these most very basic things, the church has been an antagonist.
Hey, this to me, I've been pondering on this question because I always, my mom, Reverend Mother, as y'all know, Mama Dent, I always tell her it's levels. Because it's not everybody.
Yeah.
It's some people. And I think, my opinion, the some people that I'm referring to are individuals that have the oppressive mentality. They have been, the Christianity or religion that they were taught was an oppressive, approach. And so I'm going to teach you, or I'm going to feed you scriptures that keep you in bondage, that restrict you from the liberation that the gospel is supposed to give you, right? There is heavy emphasis on, there's a lot of teachings or a lot of discussion around, Paul. And people will say, well, the Bible says, no, Paul said it. Name it. Paul is the one that said it. And if you dig back to the roots of Paul, then you would have a better understanding. You know what I mean? And then going back to what you said, B, the context. What was happening back then for that conversation to even be brought up? Does it even apply to right now? And half of the time it doesn't. You can use the basics to talk about, the basics of it. But when you really when you paint the bigger picture, no, it doesn't apply. I mean, one of the things that rubs my fur the wrong way, and I mean, I'm talking about lick your hand and rub it the wrong way type rub your fur the wrong way, is the concept of come as you are. You talking about my outward appearance, and it's really my inward appearance. What is my heart? There could be a stripper at the altar crying her heart out, asking God to save her. But there's somebody in the congregation that got on a hat, the Pentecostal outfit. I'll throw it out there just as an example. That is judging the stripper at the altar.
Yes.
And that's not fair. That is not fair. And that concept, and that doesn't just apply to the old, the Pentecostal church, whatever. That's just the concept in general. And so to me, it's some people that make it hard antagonize and do not support women leading in the church. My pastor is not like that. Let me put that out there. I'm gonna plug my pastor. He's not like that. He is a strong supporter of women in leadership and in ministry. I mean,
love that.
Licensed me, you know what I mean? He's ordained my mother. He's ordained other women. He's fully supportive of women and ministry, but he does not. I would also even, offer and suggest that he does not subscribe to an oppressive theology either. And so I think there are, like I said, there are a select group of people that subscribe to that oppressive, theology, oppressive Christianity, oppressive religion that prevent women from actually leading the church. And quite honestly, I would even suggest that, you do more damage by not allowing women the freedom to lead to the body of the, you know, of church, to the church, the building itself, because you just because of your ways or what you were taught.
Mhm.
You know, you wonder why your church not growing because you got, you know,
Yes.
sister so-and-so who can actually tear the church down by preaching. You got her over here reading scripture, or
Mhm.
you got her over here working with the kids. No, her gift is
Kids. Yeah.
her gift is preaching. Let that woman loose. Let her loose. Let her loose and watch what happens. And also that's a, to me, even in doing that, you're being disobedient to God when you are blocking women from
Yes.
from that gift, from being able to operate in ways that the Holy Spirit is calling them to operate. And if it is in leading, shame on them for operating in that capacity and not allowing them to do that. So I think, you know, it's a select group of people that have a certain mentality and thought process and theology about it that prevent women from actually being able to lead in the church.
Hey, for real, if I could answer shortly, I have to say that I don't think the church has been in antagonist so much as we have not been as much of a protagonist as we should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to take that middle ground because, to Jordan's point, I have served 1, 2, 3 women pastors at this point. And they have, the 3 of them in particular, have like really shaped my foundation for what a shepherd like looks like. Granted, you know, and at least one out of the 3 of them is not by nature like a super nurturing soul per se.
Mm-hmm.
She has a nurturing side, right? She's a mother, so she absolutely can turn it on. But by nature, she's a little rougher. You know what I'm saying? She ain't coming with the, oh baby, come here. She's like, get over there and sit down. You'll be all right. You know, but let me tell you, but as a pastor and now as a bishop in the Lord's church, you know, she just has taken it to another level. And having been her musician for well over 10 years, you know what I mean? She's my cousin at that. It was seamless to walk in there every Sunday and want to come to church at 8:00 in the morning, every Sunday, to the point where Valentine's Day, she's going to these expensive stores and making sure the musicians, not only do we have a check waiting on us when we get there, but we'd have ties on Valentine's Day, gifts, Christmas gifts, random gifts throughout the year. It's something I had never experienced, but it was because there was a certain amount of care that she did not see in a lot of places in ministry. And that as her pastor like really led them that way, she took that same leadership and applied it further. And I'll even say today, to your point, Jordan, my pastor, Dr. David Connor, shameless plug, New Life Memphis, you hear me? Definitely does not have any oppressive theology that he preaches, nor a vision to oppress the people, not the men, not the women, not the children, but is looking to build up everybody in the church so that all gifts can be used how God has given them, but how he envisions them. So absolutely, we all need structure. We all need some organization. We all need some mentorship, all those absolute things. But at the end of the day, there's a certain way that Harrison does things. There's a certain way that my gift works. There's a certain way that Jordan does things, on the JLC, Brennan, but we all got gifts, and they should all, thank you, Reverend Mother, they should all be treated as holy. They should all be respected. They should all be in their proper place. Does that always mean in front of the lights and camera, the action? No, but that means in their proper place, wherever that is. And I would just say further, even to our church, man, my pastor, again, being not a fairly young church, but since he has become the senior leader, the first 2 ministers that were installed under this new leadership was myself and another young lady by the name of Corey McKinney. Well, Corey Mack, I know you're watching. She actually tunes in regular to the well. But someone who now, if I could just say publicly, because she is also shared, doesn't see much help for the woman in ministry. She has not seen that done very well. So a lot of the conversation that we have is her battling her mind and her heart and her confidence about her place in the ministry, not her gift, not her calling, but her place in the ministry, how she's going to be perceived in certain places and how she won't be perceived in certain places. So that's something that, man, it is sometimes hard to have those conversations with the ears I have, because I don't know that to be true. Because what I've seen in leadership has been such a positive perspective of all people being at least on a fair playing ground. So that is, yeah, again, I don't think we've been as much of a protagonist as we should be and should have been.
Yeah.
And I think to speak to like what you're saying about all of these gifts being holy, and Jordan, what you named about what places in the church or positions people are given, when the church can be a protagonist, when the church does step up and live it fully into what we're called to be doing, it doesn't just bless the women. It blesses the men too, because there are those men out there whose gift are hospitality, whose gift is childcare, who aren't allowed to do those things because it's not the masculine thing. It's not the man's calling. And they're hindered from using their own gifts and living fully into who they're meant to be in the church. So this isn't something that just blesses the women. It's for the entire body.
Like I think actually here in Nashville, earlier this year, the Southern Baptist Church had their kind of convocation or yearly meeting, and the big subject, like it even made local news, was whether or not they were going to allow women pastors. And if your church had a woman pastor, like if they voted, and I didn't look to see what their final decision was, because in my mind it was just like, this is stupid. But it was like if your church had a woman pastor and you didn't change, you'd basically be kicked out of the church. And so it's like when I think about the question, for me, it's like y'all know how I roll. You either with me or you against me. Ain't really no middle ground. And even if you decide that you don't rock with me, I let you do your thing, but I don't rock with you. But it's like, I feel like in so many instances, absolutely the church could have been more of a protagonist, but because we were an antagonist. We didn't take up because we didn't take up our real mantle. We didn't take up and speak up in the ways that we should have. We turned ourselves into an antagonist because we didn't support where we were supposed to support. So for me, it's like I can completely understand, and I appreciate and love some of my favorite bishops in the United Methodist Church are women. The first bishop I ever met in the United Methodist Church was a woman, Violet, and it was like, oh snap, that's dope. I ain't never seen a woman bishop, and she preached and she killed it. And she didn't preach kind of in the traditional Methodist, quiet spirit.
She came with some fire.
She showed her entire personality in that sermon. We seen it all, but it was refreshing to see. And Bishop Linda Lee, who was a mentor to me for a while, absolutely was just a sweet spirit. But it was she tried to lead me for so long to eat tofu. I never did it, but I appreciated her persistence. But it was like her care and the want for my well-being. I just had to choose a different route. We had to just eat less red meat and just eat more chicken and fish.
There we go. There we go.
Middle ground.
Right. Yeah. We find the middle ground. But I think that's, I don't want to let us off the hook in that, in saying that we can't even when we see another church or another denomination sharing views that are against women in leadership, it's like, no, it's biblical. We see in the Bible where women led. Even the story of Esther, it wasn't even just from she didn't just lead from I'm the queen position. No, she told the whole community to pray. So she led spiritually in that moment. She said, no, y'all pray because if we gonna do this,
hey, and to Anna Jesse's point, it didn't just help the women of that community.
She saved everybody. And that's that's the thing, is like when you can see examples like this, and I think part of what I struggle with some of the interpretations of the Bible sometimes is that I understand that they are interpretations, and in a lot of cases they are male dominated interpretations. So where someone may have just been, and I mean, even in the context of understanding audiences, where a lot of places in the Bible where it says he was talking to like a room of men or something like that. It may have been a room of men, but in a lot of contexts, in a lot of places, like he could have said us, or just like or used a gender neutral word to describe the crowd. But because a man wrote it, I'm gonna put he, or a man interpreted it, I'm gonna put he, or he was talking to a group of men or something like that. And so it's like, there's those moments where things can get lost in translation, and we have to just be conscious enough and aware enough to take our time to, all right, let me break this down. Let's see who Jesus was talking to in this moment, who Paul was talking to in this moment, who David was having a conversation with at this moment. Yeah, it may be appropriate to say he right there, but in this next sentence, when he was talking to the group, he may not have been talking to all men, and that's the part that I think it's harder to do, because we've been taught to kind of look at the Bible and just take the Bible for what it is, but like it's art. It's not just what you read, because if you just look at what you read, a lot of stuff that it just wouldn't be, if there was no context to the stories, we wouldn't have a real understanding of who God is and
correct
who he has been, and who he has been to us and throughout the history of time. So it's like we have to take the time to look through and read between those lines so that we can have a better understanding of who God really is. It's not just the words on the text. It's also it's the motivation behind it. It's the context surrounding the situation. And in that, you see where God weaves his hand through all of these different situations. You see where God strategically places some people like Esther, like Ruth, like Naomi, even Naomi having the knowledge that she had to it did it again. it did
what is going on? The second week in a row.
But even for God to have Ruth marry Naomi's son, the son to pass, and for Naomi to have the knowledge and understanding that she had of the community and of the culture to place Ruth in the right place to be connected, is like, he could have, there's so many moments where you can see how God strategically used a woman.
And so strategically,
what makes
Rahab and Ruth was in the lineage of Jesus because of how they carried out their faith actions, whatever that looked like.
Right. And my question, not to us, but to folks that don't feel that women can lead, and then we're gonna move on to our next question. I'm gonna let them ponder this. But what gives you the right to tell God he did it wrong?
Hold on.
We're gonna move on to the next question.
You lost Harrison. What'd you do?
We're gonna move on to the next question.
My God, today. Wait, can I say one last thing? I promise.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
You mentioned the word translation, and I have to put the plug in here. The Bible tells us to, and it wasn't just talking to preachers, wasn't just talking to lay leaders and all those individuals who lead typically right in church with a mic in their hand. He told us to study to show yourselves approved. Meaning that it shouldn't just be the pastor telling you what the Bible says and breaking things down on a Sunday, and then, I know what the word says. No, you know what you were taught. It is our responsibility to hear a Sunday message and take it into Monday, take it into Tuesday, to sit with it, to pray with it, and don't just take what the pastor says at face value. Because again, I say it all the time, my definition of preaching is me sharing my convictions. I am offering to you what I have sat with, what God has put in my heart, in my spirit. May it be timely, absolutely. Spirit-led, absolutely. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility as the
Uh-huh.
hearer of the word, right? Faith come by hearing, hearing by. It is your responsibility to take what you read, what you study, interpret it, go back, because you got to understand, to your same point, which is really what I'm getting at, and I'm done. The Bible was translated from its original Hebrew and Greek languages, 12,000 words, into the English language, which only has 6,000 words. So we see words like power, and there's like 4 or 5 different
different versions of
translations of the word power, and you don't know that because they all spell with the same 5 letters.
Even love.
So the whole, thank you.
Well, that's a great example.
Many different, man, listen, don't get me started.
Please don't.
It's something that we just got to pay more attention to as good stewards of our faith. Most of us call ourselves Christians because we gave the pastor our hand and gave God our heart, but you don't know nothing about it. You gave him your body, you gave him your heart, but you did nothing with your mind. What did you do with your mind? Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. But he said, so as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It's about your belief. One thing my pastor said last night in Bible study, the one thing, and it may be other things, you can argue it, that's great, send me an email or text, fight me. One thing that he said, and I believe wholeheartedly, the one thing that God wants above all else is not your love, it's not your obedience, it's not your yes, it's for him to be believed.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple. And if you are calling yourself a believer, you have responsibility to know what you believe and to know why you believe it.
And let's be real. And we're gonna move on, Joe. We got to move on to the next question, y'all.
That was
but
good, Brett.
After this, we're gonna like your pastor ain't God. So your pastor isn't all knowing, all understanding.
That's the second time you done lost. And you're gonna have to come and get me because I'm still back over at the other one where you said, who are you to tell God he ain't doing right? I'm still back there.
Because I'm just trying to figure out if he put it in the if he decided to inspire man to put it in the book and to show women in leadership, who are we to say that God did it wrong and women can't lead? I don't understand that. And you would have to explain that to me in a very real context that would probably impossible to do. But we're gonna move on to another question. Harrison, you want to go to another question? Because I'm still kind of stuck there. I'm trying to think of it myself. Like, how could
that's okay? I got you.
That God did it wrong as a Christian, and you believe that God is all knowing, all powerful, all understanding, and all of these things. Like he's, omnipresent, all the omnis, but he did it wrong by putting okay.
Can we just give all jokes aside, can we give like a literal moment of silence right there?
In Jesus' name.
Man, all right.
Yo.
So with all of that, let me ask the question. As women who live in this wonderful but challenging world and culture and society, how have you all handled and dealt with this male dominant spaces? And I'm leaving it that broad, so you answer however you feel best. But how have you all dealt with that?
I would say
inside good or bad?
Outside the church, inside and outside of the church, like in just life.
So I don't care. And I hate to say it like that, but I don't care because God created me to be who I am. I'm serious. God created me to be who I am. And so if I walk in a room and the intention isn't on me, so be it. I don't care. That's for that moment, that's what it's meant for me. Yeah. But if I walk into the room and all eyes on me like Tupac, I'm supposed to be there. That moment is for me. I don't care about the male. It goes back to what I said before. We are a people. I got strengths. I got areas of improvement, just like the next person. And so, to me, I feel like if you have to command or demand something in a space, you're stepping outside of your boundary. You're trying to control something that is not yours to control. And so for me, I don't care. You got, I go into the bowling now. I'm a bowler, y'all. I've been out of bowling, for a little while now. But bowling is you can say it's a male dominated sport. The men walk in there, shooting their 200s and all of the aboves, 300s and everything. But there are women that I've seen that knock it down just like men too. 300s. High twos, averages. Like, to me, it's no competition. It's no competition. I'm not competing with no woman, no man. I'm not doing that because I don't have to. God created me to be who I am. And whenever I walk in a room, no matter whether it's in church, whether it's in my office, whether it's in a social activity or anything like that, He created me for that moment. It is my job to know that about God and to know that about myself. Anything outside that, I'm out of alignment. I'm crossing a boundary and I need to reset myself. Period. I don't care. I don't care.
Beautifully said. I mean, yes, co-signed. But also, I mean, I think of it this way. Like, I love to cook. So I think when I pull up to a table, it's my responsibility to offer something nourishing. But if people can't get fed from that, then they can find a seat someplace else. That's not my responsibility.
Gangster.
And just leave it at that.
That's good.
Gangster.
Hey, I talked to y'all about my sister friend Corey. The other side of that is that lately I've been hearing her language change to exactly what y'all are saying. She's like, listen, I don't know if the people are, she'll call me. She's like, listen, I'm gonna run a thought past you, right? Talking about the sermon. She's like, I don't know if the people are ready for me to come, but I'm coming.
That's it.
I'm coming how I'm coming. And she preaches with such conviction and with such power that she has come into spaces that typically would not see a woman preacher in the pulpit, and definitely not a woman preacher bold enough to call somebody a punk Christian in the pulpit and still allow that sermon to continue. And she has preached full sermons and had men at altars in tears, laying hands on people and helping them to be delivered out of whatever states that they are in that are not of God. And it's like, no credit to Corey, but that is to say Corey did enough work on the inside, and God has worked with her long enough to step into the fullness of who she is. And I feel like that's a testimony that's not just for women, that's for all of us. That's for all of us, man. Step into the fullness of who God created you to be. And you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
No. You're not.
You're not supposed to be. The word holy, the word sanctified.
Jesus wasn't. What makes you better than Jesus? He got killed. They killed that man, and he was coming to save him. He was coming to be their cup of tea, and they killed him. That's crazy.
He was coming to deliver tea bags. They didn't want it.
No, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't
like that flavor.
That ain't mine. I don't like it. It would smell funny. It got herbs in the bag.
I only drink coffee. No. Hey, and what did he say? If they don't receive you, don't worry about it. Wash your hands and keep it going.
You know what? I want to ask. Actually, everybody. I want to ask all of y'all something, but then, and this is a little kind of off script from our pre-planned questions, but it's more of an expansion on it. So with Kamala Harris, shout out to her and her potential taking and winning of the presidents of the United States. What do you all? It's a two-part question. What do you all believe? How do you all believe that will affect people's understandings or belief of women in leadership? Like just from what you kind of think will happen, and then what is best case scenario for you all? Like what would you all like to see from a potential, even just her running and being in this place? What would you all like to see from just society overall as it pertains to women in leadership?
Honestly, I have worries and I have my own concerns. Like, I want to see a full ceasefire as a part of her platform. So I have these things that are very important to me. But
Absolutely.
if she wins the presidency, my fear is we're going to see what we saw after Obama, which was this horrific backlash. We thought we took 2 steps forward and we suddenly took 30 back. And like we found ourselves with a Trump presidency. So
That is how we got here.
that's exactly what happened. And you can't tell me if that's what happened with the black man, that's not going to happen with the black woman, because this country does not love black women. So I think that there's going to be a real backlash, and it's going to be less about the presidency and who's holding office, and it's going to be about us and organizing and using our voice and being learning what it is to be community and communal and really taking care of one another. I think we're going to have to get better at doing that, because I think there's a hard road ahead. Honestly.
Yeah, I think I really haven't had a chance to really process it, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Because so much has happened, and we were talking, kind of off before we joined on, that life has been lifing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I will tell you, I heard the news of Biden not, cutting his race for re-election abruptly. I was out running an errand and trying to find, my dad sent me on this wild goose chase to find the traffic report for DC on the AM side, and it was actually on the FM side, and me scanning the stations, I just so happened to hear Biden decides that he's what? So now while I'm scanning, I'm checking social media. And then shortly thereafter, you know how those AM stations go. They repeat the same thing, breaking news every 5-10 minutes. And by now we're driving 30 minutes. And I'm like, Daddy, I got to turn this off. Because it disrupted my spirit. Because I went into like you said last week, like, who is next? Oh my God, what is happening? You know what I mean? I went into full panic. And then, then it was her announcement, and I was like, okay. But then I still went down a downward spiral because of the backlash that she received and still receives to this day as the vice president. And so I had to take a break from social media, if I'm gonna be honest, because it was just, we have become so overwhelmed. We've become desensitized to, technology and the information. And we become overwhelmed. And I don't think people realize how overwhelmed they've become because they're used to it now. They're desensitized to it. And so for me, I had to take a moment I gotta focus on the life that is lifing over here. I can't focus on that. That's important. But I gotta focus on life that's lifing. And so initially I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it has the potential to change history in good and in bad, to be honest. But that's all I can see at this moment, because one, I'm trying to protect my peace. I can't think about what could be. I can only deal with what's right in front of me. And right now, we still got Joe. You know what I'm saying? That's all I got. We got Joe. And I can only, pray and hope for something different.
Yeah. Because
even on the other side, that has the potential to change history. And so it's a lot to process. But all I can offer right now is that it would change history. And it can go in both directions.
Yeah.
Harrison, before you go, I want us to take a moment and recognize the fact that in 2024, Jordan found out about Biden's, not being in the race on AM radio.
The shade.
You know what? I don't care. I did not even care. It was scanning. It was just hey, but hold on though. Shout out to my dad for still knowing the stations. And
listen,
stuff
shout out to him. If all I had was AM radio, it would be done.
My God, today.
Listen, my dad, he hooked me up. And then also traffic reports. You may want to tune in. You better get you a FM and an AM station, okay? Because there was a traffic accident on the Beltway. And my dad told me, he said, turn to this station. It's on this station and you'll find out. And I sure did. But in the process, I heard about it on the AM side.
Now, I couldn't imagine what I would do without Spotify right now.
Right. You feel me?
That would. My God.
I'm just saying.
Harrison,
all I'm gonna say is you better start preparing. You better get a radio.
Listen, 2025 is coming.
Hey man, we're gonna. What was before that? We're gonna start doing telegrams.
Carrier pigeons.
Right.
Paper airplanes.
Morse code. Whatever.
Messaging about
Y'all better learn something.
Oh man, y'all funny, man. Harrison, you want to chime in on that topic?
I gotta echo a lot of what Jordan said. It's been so much happening. We in the middle of wedding planning, job transitions, life and grief and loss, and trying to figure out relationship and just growing. But I'll say I'll speak to this professionally. Working in the Department of Defense, right? Working in the Pentagon, the department as government employees, you're supposed to be apolitical, but we all know that individuals have their own beliefs, rights to belief, opinions, all those other things. And we know that a lot of people are not afraid to share them, regardless of how left or right. Praise God. So it is we're living in a different time right now. Like this is something that I think we should be celebrating. In some ways, we should be questioning in a lot of ways. But I feel like the attention is you said it's so sporadic right now. Like our attention is on this, and then it's on that, and then we are like engulfed in so much information overload all the time. It's like somebody who starts a conversation and you don't get a word in for another 5 or 6 minutes, but they've gone through 4 or 5 different topics in that 4 or 5 minutes. You're like, I don't know where to start to respond. Do I respond to the first thing, the last thing, the middle 4 things? It's like, I'm struggling where I sit with our potential presidency because I don't know where our vice president, potential presidential candidate, I don't know where all of her politics stand today. And this is just Harrison transparently speaking, and y'all, I'm on record. I don't know all of where her politics stand today. And there are some questions I know I have before she became vice president, as vice president, and now as a potential presidential candidate. But at the end of the day, I'm also going to say publicly that I'm not supporting the other guy. So,
hey, bro, hey, you got, we in the line. We can all
agree on that one.
I definitely have some questions for Miss Harris, and hopefully, I ain't gonna listen. If it's her or Trump, I hope it's Harris. I felt like I felt a sense of almost relief from even what I said last week when I heard that she was running, because it was I felt like last week it was the lesser of two evils. Like I didn't feel like Joe could run and be in the office for another 4 years. He was looking older and older. His stutter was starting to come back, and I knew, even though I had a stutter, and I know that it's something that you can overcome, and it doesn't necessarily speak to your intelligence. I know the stigma around it and how people would look at it and use it as oh, he's not fit. or he doesn't have the intelligence. And I don't know if it's an intelligence thing, but like he's older. Like, fam, he's not in his prime.
Cognitive decline.
Let that man let him enjoy all the 50 years of work he done in that. The fact that he's been in there 50 years is crazy. But like, I mean, like, you know, so like it was a relief initially, like, oh snap, it's somebody younger. Oh, and it's a black woman. Let's go. Like you got me out the jump. Like let's run. But there definitely are some questions that I have, but I think overall, like just for me, I don't doubt her ability to lead. I don't doubt, like, just at the base level. I don't think that she is, like, I should have a question of whether or not she can lead. One, because she's a woman. I don't think that should be a question that we ask. I think there are some, you know, she had some things that happened while she was attorney general and some things that she supported as a senator that I have some questions about. And I would love to hear her thoughts about it now versus back then. There are some current world issues that I absolutely want to hear about. Like, you know, to Anna Jelsey's point, like, you know, like we shouldn't be supporting Israel and all the madness that they're doing over there. That is just crazy at this point. And I think, and even with that situation, like I can understand, I switch sides, because in the beginning I felt like Israel should have responded. Do I feel like Israel has gone some, like, just entirely too far? Absolutely. Like, you know, and like at some point this has to stop. Like there's innocent people dying. You aren't just targeting, you know, and I mean, that's an entirely different subject, but I think there are some questions that she'll have to answer. But even like again, like I said, at this point, it's going to take a lot for me to not vote for her versus Trump. And I just, like, if it just, yeah. It in no way, shape, or form is it a question of if she can lead.
No,
right.
No, she's qualified.
Yeah, right. She's made it as the VP, but bottom line of it, at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is that your children's children will be impacted by the decision that we make come November.
Yes.
And the reality of it is, you know, the decisions or the lack thereof of our ancestors and those, you know, before that, you know, and I can't even say our ancestors, because it was a point in time when they couldn't. And so, you know, the decisions that were made when they didn't even have the right are impacting us today. And so if there is anybody out there complaining and fussing and cussing about something that's in place now, imagine 20, 30 years from now. You know what I mean? So at the end of it's life or death.
Yeah.
Life
literally.
or death. Bottom line. And so, you know, I don't know. I can't, you know, me and God have been having a conversation, because like I said, when I heard the news, I was like, rapture, send it now, you know.
Take me, Lord.
Yeah, I did.
That's it.
Because it was too much. It was too much. And so, you know, having to do that, to do my own Bible study. Okay, God, you say in your word, you know, that you'll never leave us nor forsake us. There's a time and a place for everything. That, you know, going through that whole thing, like just going through my own Bible study and process and prayer time with God to really say, to help clear up some of this stuff, because it's a lot of chaos and confusion. But one thing I'm clear on is I know who I'm voting for in November.
Yeah.
I think the thing we need to hold on to is, regardless of who's in office, we need to keep organizing. We need to keep fighting. We need to keep protesting. We need to keep utilizing our voices long beyond like the voting booth. And if we hold on to that, like we can, I think people are there's a risk of despair that doesn't have to be there if we remember that we hold a lot of power.
But even if we look at scripture, 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, if you back up one verse, everybody knows, if my people will call by my name, right? 40 words, absolutely necessary. But before you get there, God speaks in verse number 13 and says, yo, if you see these crazy things start to happen, when you see famine in the land, when you see droughts, when you see floods, when you start to see, again, let's go through coronavirus, when you start to see the economic disparity that we've in, when you start to see so many of our world systems fail, he said, then if my people, this is God talking, if my people, not them other people, if my people who are called by my name, if you would humble yourself, if you would pray, if you would turn from your wicked ways, and if you would seek my face, he said, then will I hear from heaven, I'll heal your sin, I'll forgive your sin, I'll heal the land. That's what he said. That is exactly what he said. Yes, sir.
Harrison, quick question right before we get up out of here. Did the verse say, if my men who are called by my name?
I'm about to read out. I got to get my good Pentecostal reading voice. If my people,
okay,
who are called,
I just wanted to be clear. I just wanted to be clear. So that was a gender neutral statement where he said, "My people," not just my men. Okay.
My peoples. And I'll say this because I know we about to hit our time, man. All day long, it's really been the past couple days, but really all day today, I could not get this song out of my head. It's a song by the late great psalmist Andre Crouch, and he wrote it with Bishop Marvin Winans, and it's called "The Promise." And he's writing it from God downloading something to him, and God said, "Hear the words: I'll never leave you, never forsake you." No matter what you're going through, I've got good news for you. I'll be with you always. And then it got to this real nice part. It said, in stormy weather, it is my pleasure. I want to take care of all of your needs. Trust me and you'll see. I'll be with you always. He went on to write another song called God is on Your Side. And it's like, if I could just leave y'all, this be my last comment. However you closing out, Brendan, God bless you, brother. My last comment, man, if we can really hunker down and put our trust in a God who does not lie and who does not fail, it will work out somehow because it has to. He's already won the victory over death, hell, and the grave for us. Like he literally gave his last for us, his only for us. It wasn't his last, it was his first. Excuse me. It was his first. It was his only begotten son. And if we could embrace that, if we could stick in our word and really learn the promises that he's given us attached to the principles of those promises, it's going to be okay. So I just encourage us tonight, man, don't be anxious of anything. Take everything to God in prayer and allow him to lead and guide, because at the end of the day, it's his plan. He knows all things that's about to happen. He knows how it's going to work out. And if, like last week, you said it, man, felt like our back was against the wall with nowhere to turn. But now this week, he's blown the wall out behind us. So we didn't have to turn left or right. We can turn around. Oh, there's another option.
We didn't even have to turn. We was looking at the goalpost like, all right, we got to get to November. And then it was like, oh, okay. Okay, all right, cool. This is what we rolling with. Like we wasn't looking for Kamala. Kamala she appeared in all her greatness in the moment.
And regardless of how it turned out, the same way that he showed up in that situation, the same way he gonna show up for us every time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all.
Yep.
All right, ladies, we getting ready to get up out of here. This was a fun conversation. I love talking to y'all.
Y'all is deep.
Right. Any last words, last comments before we get out of here, ladies?
I keep having the same thought the whole time we've been talking this evening of something I always tell people when I'm doing my anti-racism work. When I talk to white people, I'm like, you need to find opportunities to be under the leadership of people of color. Like there are things you will learn. There were ideas that you'll begin to form that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And I would say the same thing to men is if you haven't, seek out opportunities to be under the leadership of women, because it will transform you.
That's good practical advice.
Yeah, that's real good advice. I don't even know how to follow up after that. I don't know.
That was a smooth mic drop. Like, you feel me? He just let it be known, like, yo, nah. Just do what you're scared of. You know,
that's called experience right there.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna run it back to what B said earlier, which is, who are you to tell God that He got it wrong? I really want the people to marinate on that.
Yeah.
Because that literally, would reset the tone. Like it would reset you. Like you look in the mirror, like, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? You point yourself, you realize how foolish you look at pointing at yourself.
Telling God
You be so fool. You'll be foolish enough. You'll really start to think like, I'm thinking that I can tell God what He can do.
Mm-mm.
Nah, foolishness.
Foolish.
Yes, foolish. But also most importantly, vote come November.
Mm.
Vote come November. I don't care, I really don't care about that. I'm not voting, my vote counts. Yes, it does. It does. And at the end of the day, I don't want to hear nothing if something go another way. That's all I'll say about it. But I appreciate y'all having me on here tonight. It's all love. I really enjoy the conversation. And I appreciate y'all just being who y'all are, fully supporting women and leadership. Definitely have to acknowledge y'all because it's even ground here. So shout out to y'all, the fam, the squad. Acknowledging women in leadership, and supporting us in our leadership and all of the things. So love y'all tremendously.
Yeah, love y'all.
Appreciate it, man. And to that point, I personally don't care who you vote for. Just vote. Use your voice. It's given to you for a reason, and especially if you're a person of color, we ain't always had that ability. So you need to use it in honor of the folks who sacrificed all they sacrificed. Some people sacrificing their lives to give us this opportunity. Use it. Don't let it go to waste. Vote for who you vote for. You know who I hope you vote for, but vote for who you vote for. But use the gift that has been given to you from God. And with that being said, we are ending another great episode. Ladies, we appreciate y'all. Harrison, you are y'all family. Y'all act like, y'all don't be acting like family because we'll see y'all for like 6 months.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. We're gonna talk about that another time. We ain't gonna do that right here. We're gonna do that on
That's family business.
Right. I believe we'll talk about that later. But no, appreciate y'all for jumping on. This is a very important topic, and we couldn't do it as men without the voices of vision. So, family, if y'all liked what you heard today, if you like what you heard on another episode, you want to hear more of it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe at Encounter the Well. Do that just because we good peoples and we talk about good topics. And, you need more of that in your life versus some of these other podcasts out here. You feel me? And if you would like
all them AM stations.
Right.
Yeah.
On an AM station, you crazy. Now, if you would like to support the Well, please, take the opportunity to support the Well at encounterthewell.org/give or text give to 843-21. Enter whatever amount you would like. You can also become a monthly giver. We appreciate it. It helps us to do what we do, to continue the work that we're doing, to continue the conversations we have on this platform, to continue to support the communities that need to be supported, to continue to be the church that we believe we're supposed to be. So we appreciate you, even if you don't support, if you just watching, listening, and you share it with somebody else. If you like, follow, or subscribe, we appreciate all of that. We love you. Yeah, that's all I got for tonight, y'all, man. This was a great conversation.
Good.
Here. And y'all, we're gonna catch y'all next week. Peace, y'all.
Love
Night.
you. Oh yeah.